Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Just wait another moment before we get started.
Ryan Linares from Green Skies, the solar developer, said he's in the waiting room if we're able to admit him.
I don't see him here in the waiting room. We only have 6 people there right now.
Maybe he's in the wrong room. Let me check. Thanks.
Well, I was waiting for our other committee member. My understanding is she was going to be joining us. Um, so I'm going to wait one more minute and then we'll get started at 4:35.
Okay, Ryan said he's in now. Oh,
Yes, I brought him over.
Thanks.
All right, let's go ahead and get started and call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody to another fabulous Finance and Operations Committee meeting, and welcome to our guests as well. We're just going to pop through the agenda quickly here. First items are are there any comments or questions related to the information only items?
I have one question about the modern pest services.
All right, Dr. Yarborough.
Thank you. My question is this in addition to, I thought we approved something similar recently, maybe for wasp or other pests that need to be removed. Is this something different for an ongoing problem?
Modern Pest is a general contractor that does our regular maintenance.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hearing nothing else, we'll move into the next item, which is item 3.101, a solar lease agreement. Representative Winter, and I guess is it Linares?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay. If you could just provide Representative Winter just a summary of this, is how we typically do this, just a brief summary, and then we'll see if there's any comments or questions.
Sure. Thanks for having us on. So this is another solar lease agreement. So the city recently completed the first solar lease agreement, which is a landfill project on top of the city's landfill. And we've signed two other solar lease agreements for parking canopies at East Shore Park and Bowen Field. And we're looking to do additional solar leases. So we last were at F&O in, I want to say it was December, for Career High School solar parking canopy, and then previously for Clemente School. And we have the two parking canopies, which are structured as power purchase agreements at Beecher School and Hill Central School. So this would be for Wilbur Cross, and it's roughly half a megawatt in size, and would generate significant lease revenue that would go into the city's general fund. The project would involve removing 6 trees in the parking lot, and the Green Skies would compensate the city uh, tree system coordinator. Annie Mixel would find new trees to plant, ideally close by, to make up for the loss of tree coverage. Uh, and yeah, I know there were a lot of questions. I'm happy to try to answer those now, or if you want to have more of a back and forth, whatever is most productive.
Okay, well, why don't we just, I'll just open it up here to the committee if there's comments or questions, and then I have a few here. So, Dr. Yarbrough, did you have any?
Yes, just a couple of questions, and thank you for presenting this. The first question is just an update on how the other canopies are going at Beecher and some of the other locations. Is revenue being generated? How significant is it? Have there been any challenges that might be mitigated in this new setup?
Yeah, I think the one minor issue we had one panel that came loose during a winter storm, and Michelle Martinelli flagged that for us. We were able to get it fixed really quickly through Green Skies. Other than that, they've been functioning as expected, and for every kilowatt hour that the parking canopies generate, uh, there's a significant discount against the prevailing electricity costs. So, these power purchase agreements are at a little bit more than 12 cents a kilowatt hour. Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong on that. And the prevailing rate for power delivered to the school is roughly double that. So it's in the like 22 to 24 cents a kilowatt hour range, depending on the various like demand charges that can be added. So essentially, at the moment, we're getting power at about half the cost from those solar arrays. And we're now entering into like the peak production season for the parking canopies as the days are longer and there's more uh, sunlight hitting the arrays. So other than that one loose panel, everything's gone smoothly, and they're already generating significant savings to those two schools.
Okay, thank you. For the amount that's generated, is it completely offsetting any costs, and are we selling electricity back to the electric company to be used elsewhere?
Yeah, so uh, I know this question's like come up in various forms. So for the two that we've finished, the program structure was slightly different, and they're structured as power purchase agreements, which means that we're buying the power from Green Skies at a rate that's less than what we would buy power from United Illuminating. Um, so we're consuming that electricity on site. The uh, project we finished at the landfill and the other project that the city's taken on have all been structured as leases due to a change in the structure of the state solar program. So in those cases, Green Skies generates electricity from solar panels, sends the electricity back to the electric grid. They get paid at a rate that's set and fixed by a contract that they have with UI. So they're generating power for the grid. And then we get paid a lease payment, we being the city, gets paid a lease payment for hosting the solar array. So in the project of the landfill and the projects we're working on going forward, they will be providing power directly to the grid, and will benefit financially, but also as like a site host for the clean energy infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. And this agreement, is this a lease to own or is it a perpetual lease?
So it's a 20-year lease, and there are options to renew if at the end of the 20 years we wanted to renew. Um, so the lease is the same length as the contract that Green Skies has with UI to sell power back to the grid at that fixed rate that I mentioned.
Okay, so our benefit is uh purchasing electricity. We're still purchasing electricity and it's at a lower rate than if we were to purchase from UI specific. And actually, does it even benefit the school system or is it just the city? Because our power is not directly connected to the grid or to the solar panels, or is it?
Yeah, so just to clarify, so for the two that we've completed at Beecher and Hill Central, those reduce electricity costs at those two schools. Uh, the city is the name on the bill, but the electricity costs are broken out in the budget, under Board of Ed. For the projects that we're working on moving forward, the primary benefit will be revenue that's generated for the city. And at least as of now, the mayor's direction is that those funds should go into the general fund. So, like I said, we have a project at the landfill. It generates $72,000 a year. This project at Wilbur Cross will generate roughly $60,000 a year. In the landfill case, even though it's on sort of DPW's land, so to speak, those funds go to the general fund, and they don't stay with DPW to like replace garbage trucks or snow plows or anything like that. The two agreements we just signed are with the Parks Department, uh, or on Parks Department land, and those monies will also go to the general fund. So uh, I think there are ancillary benefits, of course, right? Like we just had a big storm yesterday and parts of the state were blanketed in hail. If your car's parked under a solar parking canopy, maybe you don't get damage to your vehicle, or in the summer, you're shaded. So I think there are, benefits in terms of protection from weather and shading that are definitely good ancillary benefits. Um,
And thank you. Um, so this may already be done. This may already be something that occurs, um, but in some annual report, quarterly report, it might be good for the Board of Ed to know how much revenue is being generated and that the city receives from the solar panels being on the property for the schools, not necessarily for um, just for that number to be captured
mhm.
as what's going to the district for both the board to know and also the public to know. And maybe that's already happening. One question I have is in terms of maintenance of these panels as it relates to snow removal off the top of them, as it relates to other upkeep? Who's responsible for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ryan, do you want to take that one?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for having me. I'm Ryan Linares with Green Skies Clean Energy. So to answer your question, all maintenance in and around the solar array would be performed by Green Skies. And because these are schools, there'll be, you know, 24 to 48-hour notice in advance of when we would need to access the property to maintain the systems after they're constructed. Snow removal is certainly something that Green Skies does often for all of our solar assets because if snow sits on top of the panels, they're not producing power, and that's how we are able to make our money back on the investment of these carports. There will be snow guards that are built at the base of the solar canopy. That's just to prevent any ice or snow shedding off the panels onto the ground. However, if in the event that snow were to fall and damage a vehicle, snow if it fell off of a carport that Green Skies owned, it would be our responsibility um, to rectify that issue.
Okay. And I think you said this, but just to clarify this, your team does come and cleans the snow off the panels. And is that snow then removed and hauled away? Um, is it does it become part of the snow cleanup of the parking lot? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's obviously on a case by case basis. If we have a coating of snow, we'll just let it melt away. But if we have a big snow event, where we're looking at 1 to 2 feet of snow, we will come through with our own vehicles. Usually it's a dump truck or a pickup truck, put the snow into those trucks and haul them off property. So yeah, again, it's a case by case basis. We have carports in northern Massachusetts that are oftentimes dealing with this. In southern Connecticut, it's not typically a big issue. And snow seemed to we didn't really have much accumulation on top of the carports this winter, at least in southern Connecticut. Most of it will just go into the parking lot. But yes, yeah, on a case by case basis, we're not going to put that burden of snow piles back onto the city or to the Board of Ed property by putting it back into the parking lot. So we will haul it off property.
Okay, thank you. Is there an electric charging station for electric vehicles that are also a part of the canopy development that can make use of the solar that's there, something that people pay for to charge their cars, or otherwise is that infrastructure built in to the build?
So this is something we looked at, and I think I would love to explore if you all are interested in hosting EV charging at school parking lots. I think that would be great for us to explore. What we found in the last couple projects looking at this with Green Skies is that they're really a solar developer, and like asking them to add on things, whether it's EV charging or something else, uh, really harmed the economics of the project versus like if we were to try to just do it on our own, like pay someone to do it on our own. Um, so if there are parking lots that are priorities for the district, um, I would love to know that and would be glad to look into how we can find ways to get chargers into those lots. But like I said, everything kind of adds up with these solar projects. So like the tree removals, for example, like ultimately it is the city that's paying for those because it will reduce uh, rates that Green Skies can pay us in lease payments. So everything kind of adds up, and the EV charging really harmed the project economics. We decided not to do it, but I would love to work together on that. And like I said, if there's school parking lots that we want to start with, let me know and we can see how we can get chargers set up there.
And Steve, just to add to that, when we're under construction on these sites, we will have to do underground trenching. And
Hmm.
usually one of the most expensive parts of an EV charger installation is trying to trench that power back to the school. As Steve said, if there's any interest in that from the Board of Ed or the city, while those holes are dug, we would recommend throwing some conduit into that so you don't have to go back and retrench. Green Skies is paying for the trench, and we've assumed it in our budget. But it doesn't cost us anything to throw spare conduit.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's something we could get it ready for EV charging, like Ryan said, add in conduit, and then we could ideally we could find someone like for Wilbur Cross and Career and Clemente, you know, who we can line up to get chargers installed like concurrently, in parallel to this.
Okay. Thank you. And just my last two questions. One is, um, what are my last two questions? Um, I know one of them. The other one will come to me. Uh, so one question is, there's a conversation with the school system. There's a conversation with the city. How is the community, neighborhood, um, brought into the conversation about these solar panels going in? Like who has that conversation? And the second question is, I see how this benefits Green Skies. I see how this benefits the city. Um, what is in the agreement that, let's say, 10 years down the road, or there's a different direction that the school system wants to go in as it relates to reclaiming the parking lot or building a playground instead of some kind of expansion? Um, what then is the process, or is this agreement locked in for 20 years, or is there a clause where something different can be done?
Yeah, there are I think there typically are ways to like get bought out of a contract, but it's usually considerable expense to the city. So I think it likely is that the parking canopies would be there for the duration of that 20-year period. Um, I think, yeah, I mean, I would love to get rid of lots of parking and have people, maybe we're in a world where people are walking or biking or using autonomous vehicles and we really don't have as much need for parking in 20 years. I think that's entirely possible. Um, I think for now this is like a reasonable uh, step forward, and I do think it's likely that private car ownership remains part of our lives for the next decade or so. So you know, I don't think it's likely that the land gets reclaimed in a significant way that we're totally getting rid of the parking lots.
Yeah, I mean, it could also be on the school roof versus the parking lot. So there's a different interaction with people depending
Yeah.
on the
So at
location.
at Career and Wilbercross, we do have the rooftop systems. So these are going to be supplemental, additional solar capacity.
What is the break even on the 20 years for the solar company? Because at some point you've recouped your costs for installing these and are just continuing to draw income from the solar.
Typically, without the financial model in front of me, it's usually about 11 to 12 year break even point. Uh, typically. So that's primarily for rooftop and ground mounts. Carports might have a little bit longer of a drag on that because of how expensive they are to install. It's definitely the most expensive form of solar installation is a carport because the component, their steel racking is just pretty significant in terms of its expense. But that's typically the range. And I think there was another question on community outreach. Steve was the original.
Oh yeah, we so we met with Principal Brown at Wilbur Cross, and then we visited the East Rock Community Management Team just to take their temperature on how they felt about it, and uh, it was generally really well received. People at the management team meeting, residents were really excited about it.
Thank you, Mr. Winter. Thank you, Mr. Linares. Thank you, Mr. Wilcox.
All right, thank you. I have a couple questions. A lot of my questions were answered, so thank you for the conversation. Just real quick, Dr. White, have there been any issues with the existing solar canopies that we have? I'm just thinking in terms of, are they getting in the way, prohibiting bus traffic, snow removal issues, et cetera?
No, they would, throughout the winter, we had no issue. Only thing at the very beginning, a few screws left here and there caught a couple tires, but other than that, there were no issues. It's in the installation or the
Okay.
use.
All right, thank you. You all have already had conversations with the building leadership, so that's good. One question that I had was related to when would this construction happen? And will the school have notice? And what's going to be the impact on the school depending on when this work can happen?
Steve, I could answer that if you like.
That'd be great, thanks.
Yep. So our intent is for, we will only build this project during the summer months, so while school is out. Given just because of how intrusive they are during construction, we like to make sure, like we did with the two schools last summer, do all of the mechanical work in the parking lot and have that complete so people could park under those vehicles once the school year starts. Electrical work will probably be ongoing throughout or into the school year, but that would not impact the school or people parking in any way. There might this summer, assuming we're able to move ahead, we would like to do some geotechnical sampling, which requires a drill rig to go onto the parking lot to understand what the depth of ledge is under the ground here. All of that, if it were to happen, would happen during the summer while there's minimal parking, and we would obviously, patch everything and repair any damage that we create. We try not to do it through the asphalt and try to do it through grassy areas. But it's a good way for our engineers to get a better sense of what type of racking to use while we go to install next summer.
Okay, so thank you for that answer. So it's not going to be disruptive. It sounds like, or you'll coordinate with the district and the school on that. It sounds like is what I heard. So,
And I think you were also asking about like when, like, is it this coming summer of 27 or further out? And I think our goal would be to try to have things ready for the summer of 27. This, we'll have to, like Ryan said, there's some engineering and geotechnical work that has to be done. And then there's the city, permitting and zoning process that we have to go through. And then we have to secure that long-term agreement with United Illuminating. So if we can get all those things lined up, we should I think we have a good shot at being able to start next summer. But we'll try to, we should know for sure, I think by like October or November, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
Whether we're on track for that. So we'll be sure to let you all know uh as you know as soon as possible this fall. I know for Clemente, we are we do feel confident that that project can start this coming summer of 2027.
Okay. One thing that I did notice in looking over that, I'm not an attorney or anything like that, but it does look like the easement, it looked like it was very broad, and I might be reading it wrong, but it looks like it covers the entire school campus and barring structures and
Yeah,
tree
so
removal.
the
And
east yeah, the easement in this case is kind of unusual in that oftentimes it's like, being able to access a property or walk through a property. In this case, the easement has to do with the sun being able to hit the solar arrays. So we're really looking at the southern side of the property as the sun travels east to west through the sky. And the good thing is we have the tennis courts and the street there. So aside from like maybe the potential for some tree trimming along Mitchell Drive, we shouldn't have any shouldn't impact the Board of Ed's site in any way, like if there were improvements that needed to be made to the school building, for example.
right, but I might have been reading it wrong, but it looks like it could bar structures anywhere on the, it's a 22-acre property. So it could be on the far north side. I think the easement, it just seemed like the easement was very broad and would preclude things very far away from this that would have no impact. So I think that, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that needs to be looked at just to make sure that it's not going to, I mean, why would we agree to something that could bar us from building something on the north side or planting a tree on the north side if there's no impact to the solar array? Understanding that things can't shade the array defeats the purpose. But it looks like that was the case, that it was the entire campus and not just um, limiting language that would limit to things that would impinge on solar panels receiving sunlight. So is that something that can get looked at before the city signs off on this?
Yeah, the intent of that section, as Steve had mentioned, is really to capture the sunlight and ensure we can. So we could certainly narrow the scope on that. We have no intention of regulating what the school does on the remainder of the properties, just really the south side, which is, as Steve mentioned, a pretty small sliver up until the public road. So yes, yeah, the quick answer, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can definitely work with Corp Council to make sure that that is as narrow as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like everybody's in agreement that narrow is good, and so if we could just be captured in the language, and like I said, I'm not an attorney, I might be reading it completely wrong. The final thing that I had, oh, two questions. One is, this doesn't preclude us from other solar projects on the campus as long as they don't impinge on, like, shade these structures, right? This isn't exclusive. Like you said, there's already solar panels on the roof here. There might need to be other solar projects. Is this exclusive, or is this a exclusive for the parking area?
It's just for the parking area.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, and I think I'm just looking at the easement language, and it does specify that it has to do with the leased premises, which is like 1 acre of the
Okay.
larger site. But it doesn't beyond that 1 acre where the uh, parking canopy structures will be located. It doesn't uh, prevent us from doing anything solar or otherwise.
Okay. My final comments are going to be connected to this. I mean, essentially, the parking lot will be shaded, which is great. And the like you said, there's potential, pouring rain yesterday. People, when they're getting into their car, won't have to worry about rain at that area. So there is some benefit there. But unlike the previous projects we've approved, there was direct benefit to the schools that would reducing power costs. And this is going into the city funds and understanding the city has, the mayor has increased and the alders have increased the school's budget. So the city having the funds is indirectly benefits us. So I do understand that. But I do think that if the state legislation is changed or the state program is changed and everything moving forward in the near future is going to be the same thing, that we should probably be looking at, is that the best way to do this? Understanding that we have huge capital problems in these schools. This is a school that has a pool that's out of commission for 2 years now, I believe, and no remedy in sight in terms of identifying funding that I'm aware of to fix the roof and then all the damage to the pool. So it's just one of those examples that, something that directly would benefit the capital issues that the schools have due to the chronic underfunding based on the state's inequitable way it funds education in Connecticut. So I think moving forward, that needs to be looked at. I also noticed the selection committee did include anybody from the schools. And so, in that nothing about us without us model, I think moving forward, we definitely need to have Dr. White or a designee that the superintendent would have to be part of these so that this is a heads up as early as possible to make sure that there's not going to be any impingement on the schools. And I understand, I think this goes back to 2023. Dr. White, I don't think was in his role then. We've had some turnover in that position. So I'm assuming that was the case, but definitely moving forward, I think we need somebody from the schools there.
I think all that fair and reasonable. I think the couple things I would qualify, the career and Clemente, those did come before the board and are structured as leases. And like I said, we are doing similar projects with parks and public works, and the goal is like we do have a rising tide that those financial benefits, are shared. I agree with you. This, like, putting out this RFP was one of the first things I did when I started in this role, and we definitely should have looped in somebody from the Board of Ed team for the selection committee. We did look at the RFP responses, and I would say, like, Green Skies was by far the most qualified, and they also had much better pricing. So, like, for the landfill project, they were providing 25% more in lease payments than the next highest respondent. So if that's any, or if any, just, I say that just for context, but I think in the spirit of, like you said, including decision makers earlier in the process, that definitely would have been the right thing to do. I do think on facilities, we have a lot of opportunity with the state's energy efficiency program and in making smarter capital investments that can reduce operating costs. And that's something that we're working on. Our office is working on with Dr. White and his team, looking at the HVAC systems at Betsy Ross and John Daniels. So I think there's opportunities there to get incentive funds from Energize Connecticut that will lower the long-term operating costs and help ease the financial pressures on the district.
Okay. Thank you. Like I'm all for these, and we have dozens of buildings with parking lots and everything. And because of that, I just think making sure that we're all on the same page will be good. And so on. My final quick little thing is I always like to make a pitch or data about this project and get to the schools. This is a lovely case study for a science or engineering related class about, the size of these arrays, how much power is being kicked off. A lot of practical stuff about something that's just sitting right there on the school property. So if there's anything that could get back to the schools, I think that's always a good thing. Even if it's the basic information, I think
can we
that would be
set that up
wonderful.
for the fall for Beecher and Hill Central, Ryan? I know we talked about having like a dashboard that's visible for those two schools.
Absolutely. If any, I can actually provide you after this with a link to how they're performing right now. You'll see even today, yesterday, pretty bad solar days, but over the weekend it performed. Both sites performed really well. So I'll provide that link to you, Steve, and then please disperse it to whoever you like.
Will do. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for all the conversation, Ms. Downer.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Thank you for leading up to what I have to say. I know these last 2 days aren't good for renewable energy with solar, but the next week coming in is going to be great. I just want to know what happens after, I believe what you say, 20 years? Is this the agreement for 20 years?
Yes, the term of the agreement's for 20 years, and the 20-year period starts when the project is energized and starts producing energy. So it would be once the project's complete, that 20-year clock begins. Ryan, do you want to talk about what happens at the end of the term?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I wanted some questions
Oh,
around like the removal. If let's say for instance, if like he said, we own it or it's our stuff, um, it would technically be owned by the city, right? The city of New Haven.
So this equipment, all of the equipment that we would install on this property would be owned by Green Skies. Um, that's how, so we would pay for and own the system, and all the power produced, we would sell to UI. So in this instance, Green Skies would be the owner. So no cost to the city or the city wouldn't have to go out of pocket to build these projects.
Okay, so the point that I'm making also is you're going to get a substantial amount of money from the power you're going to generate. Who removes this canopy?
Yep.
After 20 years, will the city or the Board of Ed be responsible to remove this canopy? Is there something after the 20 years? That's what I'm talking about. After the 20 years.
Yep. Yeah. So Green Skies is responsible to remove all the equipment, both above ground and underground,
And that,
after the 20 years.
okay, so that means that full restoration of the parking lot.
That's correct. Yep.
All right. And the other thing I had was so that means there wouldn't be an inverter replacement or anything like that. So it'd just be, you handle all the maintenance on it, the system conditions and everything.
That's correct. Yeah. So, and then oftentimes, as you said, the inverter is typically the most high maintenance item on this carport. And we have the data in real time that's going to tell us if one of the inverters is acting up, and we would that's when we would give 24-hour notice to the person on staff that we have information for at each facility. We'd call them, and we would replace the inverter. And again, that's all on Green Skies' costs.
So I know that this has been around. Of course, the government is pushing this, the renewables. Your company wouldn't get involved with geothermal, would you?
We do not, but we do know it's a similar business model, and we know a lot of the thermal developers, especially when there's a pool involved at the facility.
Right, school would be ideal for that. Put the whole school on it. The other thing is this, do you have any DC backups? So just in case we, some stored energy where we could, like if we ever lose power at our school?
Yep. So this project, it will not physically be connected to the school. So all the power being produced would be going to the street.
Gotcha.
So Yep. So it wouldn't necessarily, a battery backup wouldn't necessarily be super helpful in this situation. There are, you do have existing solar on top of the roof. And I think as battery technology continues to catch up in the renewable space, I'd imagine the next couple of years it might be something that the school might want to implement. I think it's almost there, but that tech is still trying to catch up.
So
Right.
Career is going to get a large battery backup system through UI, and that'll pair with the solar on the roof there. So it's similar to what Ryan's talking about, and it'll provide backup power to the school, and that's especially important because that's our like regional disaster shelter.
Okay, that actually made sense, but then I'm back to also the financial benefit throughout this whole process up to the 20 years. I mean, I'm back to what Mr. Wilcox was talking about, getting those STEM classes involved and, just making sure it's beneficial because we still have things, pools that need to be up. We have even, we have a lot of things that need to be done. Our buildings are basically need repair. So it has to be beneficial to us also. So that's the only thing I'm saying. I mean, I know that Green's Energy will greatly benefit off of this. I know they will. But I really want to see not just the 2% or 3% going to the schools. Of what Greens is. I don't know what the agreement is. I'm not sure what the financial agreement is. I didn't see it, but it makes sense that we're in it with this agreement that is going to be beneficial to us too. So that's pretty much all I have. I'm worrying about the benefit to the school.
Thank you, Ms. Downer. Dr. Yarbrough, you had your hand up again?
Yes, thank you. I think there's no direct benefit to the school financially from this. Is that correct, Mr. Winter?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is one way to put it. I think that is correct. There's the funds go to the general fund. I'll be meeting with the mayor and can share the feedback that I've gotten from you all about financial benefits, but the policy he's had for these projects is that they should flow to the general fund.
Yes. So, Mr. Wilcox, my thought is so Green Skies has negotiated and created a contract with our city, and I think our city should form an agreement or a contract with the Board of Education around what this looks like so that there's at least an acknowledgement of how much money is coming from the direct benefit of these solar panels because we do go with our hand out to our alders in our city and our state to ask for resources. And because we are nonprofit, because we don't generate income per se, we require and really rely on others to meet our budgetary needs. And this is one solid example of New Haven Public Schools being a tangible asset as it relates to electricity, in addition to the asset everyone provides as it relates to citizenship and contributing to our city and our state and our world. I imagine that there's a vision that involves many of the schools in the parking lots. And this is coming to us piece by piece for various schools. And I'm definitely recognizing that there's probably a longer and a bigger strategic plan that may involve all the properties for which this might be appropriate and beneficial to our city and also just to our environment. So I think there should be at least an acknowledgement of what is the financial contribution that comes from this arrangement. Additionally, it also sounds like our hands may be tied as a Board of Education in terms of something different happening with the parking lots once these solar canopies are installed. There's a 20-year agreement. I think I read that it can be renewed after that. I don't know that we can break the agreement. I don't know that we can enter into our own agreement. But essentially, I think once we agree or some kind of way acknowledge that this transaction is happening, we've essentially given over the lease space and any other activity within that parking lot to this arrangement. So my thought and suggestion, which is only being thought about right here in this conversation, so it's not something that I've spoken with others about to learn more, it might be worth the city and the board sitting down to understand what this arrangement is and how it can really be captured for what we are able to contribute. And hopefully there is no real consequence in terms of maintenance, upkeep, etc. It looks like the agreement that's been presented to us covers favorably some of those items. I'm not necessarily pushing for a certain percentage to come to the school, but it would be nice when the board presents for us to present and say, over the course of this year, because of the solar activity on the property that is the board responsibility, X amount of dollars have been generated for the city. It does say in this agreement, or at least in our cover letter, that the funds generated by the solar parking canopy project will go into the city's general fund, alleviating pressure on the general fund budget that frees up resources for public education and other budgetary priorities. So it'd be nice for us to capture what actually that financial contribution is from the solar panels to the city.
Yeah, I think reporting that out to Board of Ed is certainly doable, and the leases are fixed payments, so it's very straightforward for us to, annually or at some other frequency let you all know the arrays that you're hosting. Here's how much revenue they generated for the general fund. That's definitely
for the Board of Ed, but also for the Board of Alders and others
sure.
who influence budget decisions. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Wilcox.
All right. I agree that would be interesting information to have, and especially as more of these come online and like I don't know how many of our school parking lots are good candidates in terms of how much sun they get, but presumably, in over the next several years, many of them will have these, and cumulatively that'll add. I mean, this is I think 63,000 a month. I mean, a year rather to the city, but you put them all together. It's a nice little reminder that we don't just take money for education purposes. We also help a little bit. Are there any other comments or questions on this?
Right here, Mr. Wilcox.
Yes. Ms. Danner?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, what's the life cycle of those panels? Like how many years?
Yep. The manufacturer has a 25-year warranty on the panels, and we can only purchase from certain manufacturers who are credit worthy, so to ensure that the warranty remains in place. So they guarantee us a 25-year warranty. The panels will degrade by about half a percentage point per year. But so if a panel malfunctions or if it's just not working properly, the manufacturer will bring to us new panels to replace them. So it's a at least 25-year guarantee from
So
yep.
So if they're degrading at a half a point, would you say at 20-year mark they're at 80% producing?
Yeah, but actually, it's some of our Green Skies has been around for a while, and some of our older assets are still at like 85 to close to 90% real time data.
Hmm.
But the warranty does say, to protect the manufacturer that it will, we would need to model these as if they're going to go down by half a point a year.
Okay. Because the reality here is this, we're here for the formality. The city is actually going to receive everything. We're not the hosting person. We're not the host that's receiving the payments. We're not going to be receiving any reduced electric cost or any ownership rates. The school is giving up the land for like 20 years with zero direct gain. Will there be any kind of charge imports for maybe the staff that has e-cars or anything like that? Or, I don't, I'm just trying to figure out what we could actually benefit from the canopy besides shelter. Maybe, upgrade on lighting every 5 years. Um, I'm just thinking, like, is that something in the plans? Whether the EV chargers will be for the staff or no?
Yeah, I said this before, but I'm glad to repeat it. I would be happy to look into how we can work with while the pavement is open, work with Green Skies to get uh solar solar char or sorry, electric vehicle charging installed uh during the same process. I think I was, yeah,
So,
disappointed we couldn't do that for the first two projects at Beecher and Hill Central, but it's certainly something we can try to do at Clemente and uh, Career and Wilbur Cross. And
mhm.
the lighting, the canopies on the underside do have integrated LED lights, so they
Okay.
do provide good lighting.
So I also want to just really dive into the education and the STEM benefits too. I mean, like, is there any way, since Green Sky is, seems like they're the company that the city picked, but is there anything that will be able for our students, the solar curriculum modules, something you could provide, teaching, whether we have a career pathway partnership with Green Sky? Because a lot of our students don't go to college, but if they could come and actually be a technician for your company, um, is student internships available with your company? Um,
Yeah,
real-time energy dashboards that they can learn, because now I want to turn that canopy into a learning asset. I got to find some way that we benefit.
absolutely. There at some schools, I actually myself or those who work at our company that much smarter than I, who could speak to the engineering side of this, will come in and actually speak once or twice a year to the STEM classes. We do offer internships at our North Haven office, so pretty close to New Haven. Um, and I think, the data I'm about to send to Steve on the first two schools that went online this year, I think that's might be a good starting point to kind of base a class off, one or two classes off of the data that's there. It's a pretty neat way of showing how the solar is is producing in real time.
Okay.
Um, so we could probably put our heads together on once you're able to see that what that data looks like, we could kind of try to figure out how to implement that into a classroom environment. But again, I'm always open to it, and our engineering staff would love to spend an hour or so explaining to students how exactly solar works and the science behind it.
So the last question I have, which should have been my first, would have been about safety. Will you be adding security cameras under that canopy, or will we need to do that? I mean, like, with the amount of money that Green Sky is going to receive, not the payments, the host payments. That's not what I'm talking about. Is there anything that we could benefit also on security?
Yeah, so we actually just built a similar sized carport at the West Haven Police Department. They had existing security cameras in place, which we had to remove during construction, and we reinstalled them on the carports. Now the ownership, obviously the city doesn't want green skies owning those the data coming from those videos, so the ownership of the cameras themselves we'd want for New Haven to own those. I guess my follow-up question to that though is there existing cameras in or around this parking lot? Usually they're tied to the school building.
Right. So if
Typically.
it's the city property, then it's probably going to be the city owns the cameras, and I'm sure they've been plopping, just the red cameras coming in from the state for the traffic, but I'm pretty sure they can find a way. Maybe they can talk with emergency services to see if they can tie those cameras in some way on their end, or help us upgrade our security system. Just
Yeah,
looking for something.
yeah, and
Just
I know that it works because we just completed that, and again, it comes down to back to underground conduit while the asphalt's opened. Those little fibers for the cameras, we would have to throw that underground as well. But the cameras themselves, you typically don't see them in parking lots because you don't want to trench all the way back the electrical and fiber back to the school. But if it's opened up, then that's when we want to make sure we get everything that the school wants in the ground before it's closed back up.
Right, that would be in the design phase. So
Yeah,
but you have to plan for it before you design. So, all
yeah.
right, I'm done with my questions. Thank you so much.
All right, Attorney Burr.
Yeah, just very quickly, if the Board of Ed, this advice just for the Board of Ed, if you do get a chance to meet with the Board of Alders, and hopefully you do, and the Mayor's Office and others who you want to converse with on some of the concerns you brought up, I would just suggest that we draft a memorandum of understanding, memorializing any points of agreement that we're all able to, come to. So that was it. I just wanted to, keep me posted on how those conversations go. If you want me present or if you just want to give me updates, I'm happy to help craft that memorialization. I think there should be, if there's agreements that you all come to, we should memorialize them in some type of document. I'm happy to help with that. So just keep me posted. It's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, hearing nothing else on this, thank you, Mr. Linares and Representative Winter for an hour of great conversation. So,
Thanks so much. All good questions.
Thank you both.
have a good day.
Good seeing you, Mr. Winter.
And for the rest of us, we'll continue on with our agenda. I'll just remind everybody, we're still quite early in our agenda, so if we could just be quite efficient. Obviously, ask any questions we need to get information, etc. But for the project synopsis and everything, if we could just be efficient in the time, it might be appreciated by definitely by me, but also I'm sure others as well. So moving on, there's one amendment to an agreement with Resource Lighting Energy. Dr. White?
Yes, this project was due to end the past fiscal year. This moves it over to the current fiscal year, redoing lighting in our buildings.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to Agreement 5.01, an agreement with ACES. Ms. Tusignant?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is an agreement with ACES to support our literacy department, digital programming, K-12. This is for our core program, all of our intervention programs, our assessments, as well as summer learning.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions? Hearing none. Thank you. 5.02 is an agreement with Utility Communications. Dr. White?
Yes, utilities has been the backbone of our security system, both on the installation and the repair, maintenance of equipment, and as we work on upgrades, they have been the main company we've worked with.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? Quick question I have is if the school was, if you all decided you wanted some cameras in the canopy area that we were just talking about, is this the company that might be?
They would most likely they would be tasked with installing it, and so as we go into the next phase of the project, I will engage them just so that they know what's going on. So also we know what's possible in the future.
I mean, it sounds like it's prudent to run an extra conduit, et cetera. Pipes
Yes,
are
absolutely.
regardless, but also, this also might be something that, the sight lines are going to change completely in that parking lot. And so I imagine Chief Reddish, I don't know if he's aware of this and if we're seeing any other issues at the other places, it might be that there's now kind of dead zones in the camera coverage because I assume there's a camera on a parking lot. So,
Yes, they had areas of the parking lot.
okay. Thank you. Seeing nothing else. 5.03, agreement with Relay Hub. Ms. Jackson? Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I'm here. Sorry about that. I'm here. With Relay Hub, they are providing us a couple of different services. They help us to generate Medicaid billing. So that's Medicaid billing for some of our students who have IEPs and also receive Medicaid services. They do the administrative lift as well. So it used to be where we would have them just actually do the back end of the work and calculate some of the services through their own software. But what they're doing at this point is doing also an administrative lift. What you'll see, which is a little confusing in the contract, is that they actually get a percentage of the revenue that we have. There's been a couple of changes in the program over the last couple of years, or actually more than a couple of years at this point, where now some of the reimbursement is relying on whether or not parents are actually consenting to us actually doing this billing. So we don't get as much revenue as we have in the past, and certainly we continue to do that. But they're doing a couple different things. They're actually working with our folks to make sure that they're actually doing some of the actual billing, and then they're also doing some of the administrative lift for us.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to purchase orders. 6.01, purchase order with tips with School Mint. Mr. Middleton.
Good evening. So this is the purchase order request for the lottery management software that we use every year to manage the district school choice process. We are able to go a 1 year with the TIPS government contract, and I believe it's at 58,000.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, thank you. I think this is spoken about a little bit in the documentation, but how has the performance of School Mint been for our needs? And do they provide all the services and resources that we're looking for?
Yep. So I would say that no system is perfect, but I believe that the feedback that we've gotten over the years of having Schoolment is that our parents find it very easy to use. Text messaging capability, it is in English and Spanish. The ease of the application process is what matters the most. Of course, we have staff who would like to manipulate some different reports. So we do have a plan to do some training with Schoolment to bring them in to help staff do that. But our parents, which I feel is very important, have reported that it's very easy to use.
Okay, thank you. And do they offer in this package additional languages to Spanish and English?
They do not, but we can go back to them and see the add-on to support other languages. But right now, it's standard English and Spanish.
Okay, and that's been sufficient for what we need to do.
Yes. I mean, obviously, we'd want it in multiple more languages given the diversity in our district, but it's been sufficient at this time. But we'd love to see more, but we can investigate that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Mr. Middleton. Hearing nothing else. 6.03. Oh, nope, I'm sorry. 6.02 is Power School for Naviance. Ms. Jackson.
This is, again, Naviance is the software that we utilize to help our students with their college and career readiness. It has a lot of assessments across several domains: social emotional learning, college and career, and academics. So again, this is the software that we've been utilizing. We've continued to analyze this particular, our usage. Again, just enough so that we can make sure that our students are prepared as they're going through the application process in many instances, and also some of the career inventories that are embedded.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions? Dr. Yarborough?
Yes, thank you. Just a question. I see the price increase for this year. Have they indicated ongoing price increases? Is it small?
Yeah, we talk with them oftentimes because then they have some layered like professional development and telephone calls and some other things that they had at one point in time layered on. So, we do talk with them. It's not a substantial increase that we have, but we continue to look to see whether or not it's the product that actually is giving us what it is that we need at the end of the day. So we continue to do analysis of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. 6.03 is a purchase order with Chem Aqua. Dr. White?
Yes, Chem Aqua, their specialty work is treatment for our HVAC systems to keep them running properly with the correct mix that needs to go into them, as well as they do support with other testing that we need from time to time.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either. 6.04 is purchase order with Amazon Handyman Services. Dr. White?
Yes, as part of the MSAP program, the Magnet Program grant, and the revitalization of programs at Career, Broader, and MBA, Broader is changing some of their spaces and needs some work done both in their library and the hall spaces. Again, as part of the revamping and the increase to becoming a high school focused school.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? All right, I had none either. Move into contracts. Looks like the first three are with Mr. Young. First is 701 renewal of the award with was it Guida Siebert Dairy Company? Mr. Young?
Yes, this is our dairy contract renewal for 26-27 school year.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? And none either. 702, Yang's Fifth Taste.
Yang's is a contract renewal for our Asian flavored sauces as well as our noodles for the 26-27 school year.
All right. Comments or questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Oh, please, Dr. Yarborough.
Thank you. Mr. Young, are you seeing general increase in prices for the products? And I'm assuming if there are increases, the reimbursements are also increasing to match?
There are increases. The reimbursements rates are determined by the state, so I don't have any control over that. But in regards to the increase in prices, there is an increase in prices, and so that's just going through. But the good thing with these contract renewals, these prices remain the same as we enter in the 25-26 school year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, 703, renewal of the award with Nardoni Brothers.
I'm sorry,
Nardoni?
I'm sorry,
Mr.
Dr.
Wilcox, I couldn't get my hand fast enough.
Sorry, Dr. Negron.
I just want to flag that we need to correct a typo on that 7.02 on the end date. It should say 2027.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, I just want to flag that.
Thank you. This is where we would, who's going to flag this? Because typically it's Ms. DeMayo, but she's not with
Yeah,
us.
I'm going to send her a note so that by the time it gets to full board, that we have that corrected.
All right. Thank you for catching that. And 703 was Nardoni Brothers.
Okay, now Donny Brothers is a contract renewal, and this is for our pizzas that we have that we serve French bread pizza, and this is a direct delivery that comes straight to us in Central Kitchen.
All right. Thank you. Comments or questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Young. 704, award a contract with Anvil Connecticut LLP. Dr. White.
Yes, this is our contract for fence repair. This is on call to do work from the district as we need to, whether it be a tree coming down on our fence or something needs to be secured so that we don't have elopement. This is the grant. This is the excuse me. This is the company that will be doing those repairs.
All right. Thank you. Comments or questions? And then either 801 change orders now, one with JTM Food Group, Mr. Young.
This is a $700 change order increase to close out the 25-26 school year with JTM. JTM provides us with our pastas and sauces, as well as they also provide noodles as well.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? All right. I don't know that we'll need the we typically have the amount of the change, but $700 on 185 would be a 0.00 something. So I don't think we need that one, but
I was thinking maybe we need a win. Maybe we should put it.
maybe we should.
All my increase 30%.
If you don't mind, Dr. DeGron, since you're going to be talking to Ms. DeMayo anyways, if we could have the percent increase on that. We'll take the win wherever we can. At least it'll be humorous for us, me at least. 802 change order with auto parts and services, Dr. White.
Yes, this is to keep our fleet on the road, working on vehicles, whether it be on maintenance or sometimes food service or security. This is to assist in those costs.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either. 803 change order with Tucker Mechanical, Dr. White.
June was a very hot month. We had lots of repairs and we exceeded the amount.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either. 9.01, an MOU, renewing our MOU with the city for Corp Counsel position. Dr. Negron?
I don't know what it is about today. I'm not fast enough with getting on the mute. Yes, so we have here the updated MOU for this academic year to ensure that we have Attorney Barrera as our counsel. I want to clarify that we do cover the costs of Attorney Barrera. We are the only client, but again, he is part of the legal counsel team for the city. But again, he is then directed to have BOE as their only client.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? And also just as background, and this is because in order to reduce outside legal costs, having somebody in-house could be more efficient. And it's the opinion of the corporation counsel or that all attorneys working for the city need to be part of the corp counsel's office, which does make sense to me. So it's also the background as to why we do it this way rather than doing it direct. Hearing nothing else on this, that is all of our action items. I'll go ahead and make a motion, and I move that we send to the full board this one solar lease agreement, this one amendment, these 3 agreements, these 4 purchase orders, 4 contracts, 3 change orders, and 1 MOU as outlined on our agenda.
Second.
It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Yarbrough,
Yes.
Ms. Downer,
Yes.
thank you. And I'm a yes as well. The motion carries. Briefly, the F&O revised agreement memo, as I mentioned previously, Ms. DeMayo is not with us. They want to make some brief changes to the our standard cover memo. Specifically, this is some information I received from her on page 2, question 1. They're just asking for more clarity with the detailed cooperative contract section, which allows staff to select from the most common cooperatives, especially for the RESC, the RESCA service centers. So there's a little bit of that was a change there. On page 3, questions 4 and 5 had some slight formatting changes. And on page 5, questions 18 and 19 were added to reflect AI and data collection information. So I think that if any committee members have any issues with this, to please let Dr. Negron and Ms. DeMayo know so they can take another stab at it. But it is kind of seems to be an improvement and addresses some of the questions that come up. Any comments or questions on this?
Yes, Mr. Wilcox.
Dr. Yarbrough?
Yeah, maybe for 19, where it asks about collecting district data. Either this can just be part of the process of forming an agreement with the company, or in this report, I would be interested in knowing, is the agreement only for the required, like the necessary required data, or something to that effect? Because I would like to know by the time it gets to us that the data has already been whittled down to what is necessary for the proper function of kind of the software or the agreement or relationship versus us receiving the MOU and then saying, do we need this? Do we need that? If we don't, let's remove it and see if the vendor agrees with that.
So if I remember correctly, we do have a data policy that I think we've taken a look at sometime I'm trying to remember when.
Yes.
So I think the policy, I think for the purposes of this memo, this is a flag. Staff will be telling us, if there's information in here that the vendor will collect, access, store, process district student data, et cetera. And then we'll be able to scrutinize. It'll be like a flag, like pay attention to the data because data are going to be collected. So
that can work. I think my general question will be each time, which of these data are necessary.
Right.
And I'll get that clarity.
Yeah, and I think my understanding from this change was so that everybody knows the data is being collected, so that the district staff and the board can scrutinize it more closely.
Thank you. I think that'd be helpful.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Looks like our final agenda item here, unless there's some upcoming financial issues, is a fiscal operations strategies report. Mr. Hernandez?
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. I'll be as quick as I can. I'll take this 2 hour presentation into 1.5 hour. So no, I'll probably do this in 10, 15 minutes. I'll be quick. So before I share my screen, the preface to this is that I recently did a presentation to the school administrators during the year-end superintendent meeting. And this is a slightly revised version of that presentation that was modified, for this particular audience and for the public. And it speaks basically to the mindset that the business office is taking in order to achieve the goals of operational efficiencies. So I'll share my screen and then I'll go as at least the first 5 slides. I may just scan through them fairly quick so I can focus on the latter part of the presentation, which is where the most important information resides. So let me share my screen here. Okay, I hope that you see the slideshow.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So of course, we always start this is moving towards the path of excellence. We start with the mission, vision, and the SOP, focusing on the operational efficiencies. And then I basically spent some time with the school administrators and now with this particular audience, explaining to them what the business office purpose was. So I basically wrote what I would like to share with the district, which is what I believe is our purpose here in business office, and how these 3 questions that you see in the middle are the 3 questions that should be guiding our work on a day-to-day basis. The impact to the students, how it aligns to the mission, and then what goal does this particular task or function achieves. So if we answer those 3 questions and we are in alignment, I think that we will be able to meet the goals of this particular department. I also spoke about the correlation between the work that we do with the work that happens at the classroom level. Oftentimes, and today I had a meeting with the staff where I did this presentation to my staff here in finance, and I was able to confirm that oftentimes it is hard for them to see the impact that their work has in the classroom, because sometimes we are so apart, so far away from the classroom, that it's hard to see the impact that it has. So I did spoke to the administrators and also today to my staff about the correlation between the work we do in the classroom and how students should be our guiding star. Our North Star should be the students. And that should be how we should make decisions, moving forward. Embracing change. Every time you use the word change, people get a little bit stressed. There's anxiety. That's normal. But I spoke about change as we embark into a journey of a year where we're going to be transitioning many processes into better improved, processes and potentially new technology, new structure. We spoke about, how uncomfortable change is and how important it is for us to embrace it. And I spent some time, speaking about this. I also spent some time talking about innovation. I asked school administrators and also my staff about any ideas, anything that they'd like to see in the future. So we took some notes, some feedback for us to continue building our strategy for the year. But I go back because it is important that this one is the one, systematically. It is important that I highlight the word systematically, because some of the things that I will mention in the upcoming slides are all in alignment with the systematic approach that I've taken to implement the changes and the innovations and the improvements that I'm going to share with you all today. They are all formulated with a framework around a systematic approach. These are some of the big ticket items, or at least headings, that I share with the school administrators and my staff regarding some of the areas that we're going to be focusing on this year. Collaboration, and that means internal collaboration among departments, HR, facilities, academics. Accountability, holding each other accountable, not in a punishable way, not in a diminishing way, not in a judgmental way, but holding each other accountable on behalf of our students. Cost optimization, how can we learn and practice cost optimization when we are asking for quotes from our vendors? That's extremely important. We see oftentimes quotes that we may say, okay, can we get a better price? Can we get a better cost? But that question oftentimes comes later in the process. I would like for the district as a whole to adopt a mentality where we can negotiate this better pricing way at the beginning of the process. So that way, when it comes to central office or processing, we know that a process of good negotiation had taken place. Not to say that that doesn't happen right now. It happens often, very often. But I think that we miss some opportunities at times when we have relationship with vendors that are long-term relationships, right? We've been with this vendor for 10, 20 years. So we are comfortable with that vendor. So I like to have conversations with the district about how do we, put some of those factors to the side and then just focus on the business side of the negotiation, so we could get the better deal that we can get. Technology integration, we've seen that with Inform K-12 as we integrated the PO system through Inform K-12, and we have more of that coming. And the next slide will speak a little bit more about that. Streamlining the contract and agreement processing, strategic center, converting the business office into a strategic center as opposed to a cost center. I spoke to my staff about that today, and they were very intrigued about this concept of, instead of just being data entry accounting clerks, becoming strategic staff that can provide input and feedback and be more part of the conversations. Where they see something, say something. When you feel like something may not look right, say something. When you have a concern about a particular account because you see that they may be trending negatively, say something. Help the leadership make better decisions by making those observations and saying something in real time, as opposed to just entering data and processing because of the volume of work that they have. Effective communication between schools and central office, both ways. Standardizing processes and forms, and providing more professional development for school business managers and also the staff here in the business office. Regarding Inform K-12, I did mention to the school, this is a new slide that was not presented to the school administrators, but I did mention to them that these two in particular were going to be processes that we were going to explore on how can we integrate them into Inform K-12, just the same way that we did the PO. And after meeting with Inform K-12 and the team, we decided that these two are definitely the next two that we're going to be working on. I can tell you that maybe these two may take us between 3 months, maybe about 3 months average, to put these three, design it and implement it. They should not be too hard to do, especially the rec for hire should be done fairly quick. Contract and agreements has some nuances to it, but I think that we should be able to get it done within a 3-month span. And then after that, we have a whole bunch of other processes in line, in queue, to also work on special education tuition billing. We also have potentially some part-time timesheets. So we have some other forms that we may be able to integrate as well. But these are the two that the team decided to prioritize. And when I say the team, I mean a business office redesign work group. I created a finance or business office redesign group. It's made out of 6 employees, including myself. I'm one of them, and then 5 more. They are not necessarily from the finance office, except Juanita. So it's Juanita, it's Michelle Bonano, Salina, Mike Trinick, and Luz Perez from facilities. So we have a variety of staff from different areas that we meet on a frequent basis. We actually met this morning to think about how can we redesign the business office department and what processes, what structure can we put in place this year to improve the areas that we have identified as areas that require improvement. These 7 steps that you see on the screen are the 7 steps that I created as a framework for us to work under. So we're currently working, on the first 3, and we're going to be moving on as we progress in some of the projects. So we may be going back and forth on these steps as new projects, as we take on new projects, throughout the year. But this is the framework that we're using to make sure that we don't miss anything and that everything is taken into account. And again, to make sure that the process of implementing anything new, it's done within the systematic approach. And that's why this framework was important for me to provide in order to stay within a systematic approach and make sure that everything is done on equity base. And then the next 5 slides are the last 5 slides, and these are the 5 work streams that I'm in charge of working on under the guidance of the superintendent and Dr. White, who's in charge of the operational efficiencies section of the SOP. I am in charge of strategy number 2, and strategy number 2 is made out of 5 different work streams. I will go over 5 of them fairly quick. I'm not going to go into every single steps, but you could see at least, I'll give enough time for you to read the steps that are enumerated there, so you have an idea of some of the things that I'm looking into. So number 1 is to create an efficient, structured budget process, including planning, preparation, adoption, implementation, and evaluation to ensure district equity. As you know, this year, the budget process, was like a little bit of a hybrid approach, right? I did some of the things that were done, how it was done in the past. I also implemented a few new things that I was able to do in real time. But now that I have a little bit more time and that I went through the experience, I am ready to start making more substantial changes to the process. But most importantly is to formalize the process in a way that hopefully I will leave beyond my time, especially number 1, which is the cloud integration. And that's probably, that could be one of the most impactful changes if I'm able to get to that point, which is moving our budget process from an Excel sheet kind of system into a cloud platform, whichever platform that is. It could be Munis itself, which is our ERP, but it could also be any other system that could integrate with Munis. So that's number 1, and then you see the other ones there that are important for me to implement in the budget process in order to achieve the goal, of district equity. Number 2 is to map current resources across the district to align with priorities and high leverage strategies. So this one is kind of like, think about it as taking an inventory, but it's not just an inventory of supplies and materials, but think about it, an inventory of everything, right? Doing a funding analysis, an inventory of technology and what are the needs and the wants, a staffing realignment, and that doesn't mean moving staffing around, but to potentially create a new staffing guideline, which is another work stream in itself. But this will kind of like overlap a little bit with another work stream that I will talk about in a little bit. But make sure that we do have all the staffing that we need in the right places and that we're maximizing our staff. I presented this one to my staff today as something that we're going to do internally to make sure that every single accounting clerk in my office is maximizing their time, and that we are also tapping to their strength. And that's why Juanita will be going through a process of restructuring our functions within the office to make sure that we're tapping to their strength, and then make sure that we're maximizing, their capacity. And then, of course, offering evaluation. Number 3 will be a creative funding advocacy plan for the district. This is one that's very kind of like close to my heart, not only because we kind of went through a similar process as we were advocating for funding, but it's also something that I've done for another school district, especially in Hartford, as I'm part of the legislative task force in Hartford. I'm working together with the superintendent to create a formalized group that could be in charge of advocating not only at the state level, but also at the local level, and also beyond that. And this one is something that I believe that we should embark in having these conversations, because not only it will include central office staff, but also it may include staffing from schools, parents, students, and this will be a group that will be kind of like moving the conversations about advocating for funding, not only, and again, with different stakeholders at different levels, but formalizing a group that the superintendent can always call on to show up. I think it will be a great idea for us to have that. Number 4, reviewing staffing guidelines within the context of district priorities. Again, the board, approved staffing guidelines on 2023. I think that based on the reality of today and how we understand how the funding flows and works, I think that it would be good for us to go through a similar process again and double check and look at the staffing guidelines. I believe the one that we have now that was approved in 2023 does not any longer meet the realities of our needs today. And I think that it would be good for us to go through a process and observe and kind of identify, where do we have gaps? How can we advocate, to fill those gaps? And make sure that we do it, within the context of the district priorities. As priorities change over time, we would like to adjust accordingly. And lastly, see, I knew I was going to lose fairly quick. And lastly, the last work stream is to improve the general fund allocation methodology for regular SPED and ML students. So this one, as you remember, we went through a pilot program this year of adding additional discretionary general funds to the schools based on how many multi-language learner students the schools have and how many special education students they have. It was a total of $200,000 that we allocated throughout all 40 schools, which came out to be $24 per student for ML and $34 per student for special education students. This additional funding was kind of like our way to tell the state, this is what we would like to see within the ECS formula, to have some weights that include both, not just ML like they do have now, but also include special education students. So we did it on our own with our own general funds, even though we didn't have really any general funds to do this work, but prioritizing our students, we were able to reallocate that $200,000. So now what I would like to do is to improve that process. To improve that process, not only hopefully by increasing the amount for future years, but also making sure that we take into account our regular students and kind of like be able to analyze in reality how much money do they really need. Even if we don't have enough money to meet that demand right now, we are able to now have a target number that we can achieve. And analyzing and figuring out what that number is, it's extremely important because that's how we can then do better advocacy on behalf of our students when we have a target number. And I think that this will be a good process for us to identify what that gap is, and also for us to improve and hopefully increase the amount for future years to come. And that's it. I feel like I didn't take a breath, like I need to breathe now. So
Thank you. Are there comments or questions?
Yes, I have a comment.
Please. Yeah.
Just want to thank you, Mr. Hernandez, for you and your office doing this work. It was great to see just how you're looking at operational efficiencies and what you can do in the office in terms of how you approach the finances and strategizing and really making improvements, and how you intend to integrate the different departments and leaders across the school district in order to make that happen. So thank you very much for the presentation. It was good for me to hear.
All right, thank you. I'll just echo that. Thank you for the presentation. It was quite informative, particularly liked the just general efficiencies throughout, but then also the advocacy plan for the district and having the data available, making it easy for those doing the advocating to have the information they need in terms of like what the implications would be if they had to wait for SPED students in the formula. Being able to kind of provide the data, I think, would be excellent for people to model that out. And to have something that this isn't so ad hoc, which it sometimes is as we respond, but because next budget cycle is going to be the most important budget cycle next to this one we just got through. So
indeed.
Thank you for that. And then also, just because you weren't here when we did the staffing guidelines report, the purpose of doing that was to also be able to generate something to say, we get a lot of criticism in the schools because, well, your test scores are this or graduation rate is that. And those of us that have looked at this a lot understand per pupil funding is everything. And so this was also to show, this is what we're doing, and we also could use 30 teachers in this category, and we need, if you think that there's problems in the schools, we need, the people doing the behavior interventions, et cetera. We need 30 of those, et cetera. So just being able to kind of also show in terms of people that gap, as a way of saying, just think how it would be if we actually had these things in place based on these national standards or, professional experience to say this is how many security folks we need, social workers, et cetera. So that was that purpose behind that. And I think it's always good to update that as needs change. So
Thank you.
thank you very much. We've reached the end of the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We shall vote. Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Ms. Downer,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Well, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.